I got to kick this thing off. Can I kick it off? 1, 2, 3, 4. Ladies and gentlemen, listen.
Conversate with Us Radio presents the Man Listen Show. We are the blackest radio show on the internet. We bring you our opinion on topics that affect the Black community in an effort to enlighten, enrich, and empower every brother and sister that falls under the sound of our voice. We operate on a no-hate frequency, so be prepared for us to keep it 100% real and 100% Black all the time. Please follow the show on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Man Listen Show. You can also subscribe to the show on iTunes, YouTube. Make sure you leave a comment. Make sure you give us a thumbs up. Make sure you share the show. Let everybody know about the blackest radio show on the internet, the Man Listen Show. I'm your host, Mark B. Let's bring the crew in. All right, y'all, we down one soldier. Rika got some business she got to handle, but it's all good, all love. So in Chicago, there was an incident that happened with a woman and her son and an individual that led to the murder of another Black man. Carlisha Hood was at a restaurant picking up her food when she was accosted, tormented by Jeremy Brown. Carlisha's 35, Jeremy Brown was 32. We see videos of them arguing, and he, threatening her, saying, say one more word, I'm gonna knock you out. And then you see him proceed to try to punch her with all of his might. Her son, her 14-year-old son, had came from the car, was standing in the doorway with a firearm. When he saw the man striking his mother, he pulled out the firearm and he shot him. Jeremy then tried to flee, and Carlisha and her son followed him, and Carlisha instructed her son to shoot him again. And those following shots ended up killing Jeremy Brown. So Carlisha was then arrested by Chicago PD. A lot of people saw this. The way the news came out about it was like, mother ordered her son to kill a man. But when you saw the video, you saw the details, it's not like they tried to put it into the headlines. Allegedly, because people are saying they don't know if this really happened or not, but I kind of think it did by looking at the videos that I saw. There was a woman there that was with Jeremy Brown who was instigating all of this and laughing about this whole situation. And Carlisha allegedly told her son to shoot that person too, right? And the son refused. And then Carlisha tried to take the weapon from her son so she could shoot the individual, but he would not let her have the gun, and then they fled the scene. So she was arrested. They were both arrested for first-degree murder. But yesterday, police announced that all charges were dropped, and now they are free to go. And I saw on social media where they have been reunited. So we'll start with C. C, as a woman, when you first saw the video and got the details, what were your thoughts about this?
I mean, I was furious when I saw how he was like with closed fists, like punching a woman. And then I also, at first, I was like, I couldn't believe that there were other men in the actual restaurant who didn't try to intervene before it even got physical, like when they were having that argument. And I know it's hard, like especially, well, I guess it wasn't a domestic situation. I know in domestic situations, a lot of times people are hesitant to get involved because then they could turn on you. But when I saw the older Black gentleman just, hurry up and walk out, at first I was like, man, dang, he didn't even try to stop it. But then, after thinking about it just later, like with his age, like I understand everybody can say what they would or wouldn't do in a situation until you're in the situation. And I don't know, maybe he was fearful for his life. So when I first read the headline, like you said, it wasn't correct. They said that she texted him and told him to go get the gun or told him to bring it in. So come to find out that wasn't true at all. And then when you watch the video in its entirety, which I didn't watch it all the way through, but, by the time like he starts punching her to when he gets shot, like I don't think she would have had time, what I mean, to grab a phone and text someone. I think her son knew where the gun was and saw what was going on and just jumped in there and ran and did what he had to do.
Yeah. And a lot of the footage that we have seen has been partial footage because the police have been releasing some of the clips, not all the clips. But I think what is pretty clear is that people say, well, she shouldn't have put her son in that predicament. Well, I have to disagree with that because, yeah, as a parent, you would say, nah, I'm not going to let my child do this. I'm going to do this, right? But the way he had her cornered and the way that he was hitting her, she didn't have an opportunity to do all that. Now, there's no telling if he would have stopped because he said, I'm going to knock you out. And I'm going to go ahead and put this out there. The dude, Jeremy Brown, I feel sorry for his family and his children, but I do not feel sorry for him. It was cowardly what he was doing. Number one, striking a woman like that, then trying to strike her with all your might. And the thing is, the way he was reaching back and the way he was hitting her, and dude, you hit her all like that, and she was still standing. So like, they just talk about how weak you was as an individual. Like, I don't need to, throw a whole lot of dirt on that dead man's name, but he really did it to himself by the final acts that he decided to take on this earth. So I would say that, in my personal opinion, I don't feel the mother did wrong up until a certain point. Now, we all know it's better to be, what does it say? It's better to be judged by 12 than carried by 6.
Carried by 6.
So the only mistake that I feel like the son made, he's 14, so I'm not trying to put any blame on him at all. No. But if it was a grown man, he should have emptied the clip and just put him down right then and there. Where they kind of got a gray areas when they followed him.
Yeah.
But they didn't know he could have been going to get another firearm. He could have been going to get another man who was abusive to women just like him. So by instructing him, go ahead and finish the job. I know people have a hard time grasping that concept, but honestly, it probably helped him. Now, what the boy did do was right, because you could see her trying to take the gun from him. I do think that she was trying to go get that young lady that was allegedly instigating the mess because her emotions were riled up. And thankfully, that young man didn't do that because they probably would still be charged. But Lab, go ahead, jump in, man. What were your thoughts, bro?
Yeah, I think, it's going to be a clean sweep on this one as far as feelings go towards about the quote unquote victim in this situation, the deceased. Don't put your hands on people, man. Particularly women. As a man, that's something that I've always been taught. I always strive not to even put myself in a predicament like that. But it's a lot of we talked about a couple of weeks ago how sometimes we need to just be the bigger person and let stuff go and everything like that. But because we don't, that's why, he had the kid had to finish the job, because in our community, for the most part, in the communities like that, if you don't get them, then they definitely coming back with a vengeance. And it's sad, but that's one of the things that you'll hear. People when the whole gun argument or what have you is, they always say, if you pull it, you got to use it, and you got to kill them, because not too many people gonna let you pull a gun on them, shoot them, walk away, and then not try to get back at you. So, I mean, if that's just how it goes. But overall, I'm not gonna say she didn't do anything wrong, the mother. But same token, this man, if he hadn't have done what he did, first off, that started the whole thing. And once you cross the line, then other people, I know I'm not gonna say it gives them liberty to act out of hand or do things that they shouldn't do, but it all started with his act.
Yeah, and I think his family, I understand they're grieving, but I think they have a lot of nerve to sit there and try to say, oh, well, two wrongs don't make a right, and what about his mother? What about his daughters? And my response to that is the fact that he had a mom and the fact that he was raising two daughters should have made him know better than to hit a woman like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what the disagreement was about. I don't care what it was about. Y'all in a restaurant, y'all don't know each other, and you punching a woman like that. I mean, I get it's hard. You lost your family member, but y'all probably should just be quiet. Probably should just be quiet and let that go.
And I don't know. I'm like, there has to be some kind of backstory. Like, how do you run into somebody and within 5 minutes of, especially a male female dynamic or something, you know what I mean? How does that transpire so quickly, man?
A lot of people have been asking that, and I, since you've asked it, I'll probably relax. But when people ask that question, I'm like, what does it matter? Like, what does it matter what they was arguing about? Because it didn't warrant him striking her. Like,
right? No, yeah.
So I get it. I think, and I said this before in the show, as Black people, we got to do something about our emotional intelligence and how we respond to conflict. Because, like you said, man, how does it get to a point where you are that unhinged at a restaurant? What are y'all arguing about? Food, place in line? How is it that deep?
I mean, that's why I said, like, things, I feel like times have just like changed a lot. Like, typically whenever there was an incident that involves one of us, us as in Black people, we would always be like, it's never random. It's usually like, you know what I'm saying, some type of situation to where somebody's either related or they're friends, or even if you're in an opposing gang, or just like there's some backstory to it. Like, how did we get to the point where we're arguing? Like you said, I don't know if it was over order. I don't know if it was over stand in line, to the point where it turns into somebody feeling like they have to fight somebody, and then somebody else having to defend themselves by shooting and killing somebody. Like, how did we get here? And so that I don't know. Like, I feel like, I don't know, just like the culture. It's like there's just been like a real shift in us in like the last, I'd probably say 10 to 15 years or so, just of stuff we wouldn't have seen prior to this. Like, typically, if a man hit a woman like that, I would say that they were probably dating, or they messed around or something.
I'm gonna say this, and I wanted to bring this up later in the show, but this is a perfect segue when you talk about what's changed in our community. I saw something on Instagram where it was these 4 young Black women. They were at one of the slave castles in Ghana, and at the slave castles, this was like the last place that our ancestors saw before they were taken to, South America, the United States, or wherever, to be enslaved. And these young women were twerking at the slave castle, talking about twerking for the ancestors. Now, some people were trying to make excuses for them. It was like, well, the position they were in, obviously they were trying to say, F you to massa, or, well, tribal dances, they shake their rear ends like that. No. There's no way that you could be at somewhere so sacred, so just emotional. I've heard people, I've talked to people who have been to the slave castles, and they talked about how they literally were crying because of the emotions that it brought out in them, right? And for y'all to be twerking. And then you have the BET Awards, right? And people were talking about how trash it was because of the artists and the music and the type of behavior that was going on at the BET Awards. And one thing in particular, they were talking about, and I can't remember the young lady's name. They were named like Sexy Red or something like that. She's somehow associated to Uncle Luke. And she got a song. It's one of them TikTok songs. It's funny, but it's
no, it's not.
It's funny, but it's vile at the same time, right? And listen, let me tell y'all. Obviously, y'all know I got another podcast where I talk about sex, so I'm not judging. But the one thing I won't be doing is talking about all of those things in front of an elder. And people showed how she was up and dancing and singing the lyrics to her song. And you got Bobby Jones sitting six. You got Reverend Bobby Jones, who we all grew up, Bobby Jones gospel on Sunday. He's sitting 5 seats away.
Yeah.
So just to bring it full circle, see, a lot of the things that have happened to us is we don't feel comfortable with holding our young people accountable for how they act around us, because you can't say nothing to nobody anymore. You know, you can't talk about them if they're wearing bonnets in public or to the airport or whatever. You can't say nothing to them, right? Why do you feel like you need to tell me what to do? You can't say anything to anybody. So when people say at the altercation that happened between Carlisha and Jeremy, and the old man turned around and left, that old man probably knew. Guess what? I'm going up in Chicago. These Negroes will shoot at the drop of a hat.
Yep.
And they're not going to listen to me. There's no respect for anybody who's elderly. He should be able to say, hey, young man, come over here, man. Leave her alone. But do you think that that dude probably would have listened? I don't. So for people to say, well, men were there and they didn't help, I think we got to kind of look at it from a different perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like you said, man. It's a different time. So many factors though have gone into that. I think in particular when it comes to the social media aspect of like the music and then just everything, doing, the old school, do it for the gram, or do it for the Vine, whatever, is a lot of stuff that used to be frowned upon. Certain people have found that there's a market out there, and so they push the limit for monetary gain. And so there's a lot of people who, we talked about it on this show several times about non-traditional markets and stuff for communities that are traditionally disenfranchised as far as gaining access to wealth and gaining access to money and things like that. So for a lot of people, it starts off like that. They're like, man, well, I can do this and act silly or be dumb or just put out this quick song about whatever, and I'm gonna get money. And I think from there, then there's so many people that are trying that because they've seen people be successful. I'm speaking specifically about music, that they really don't care about what they're putting out. It's all about the dollar. I heard Andre 3000 talk about that, just last week, talking about there's no artistry in the game anymore. Everybody's just trying to get money.
Yeah. You like what you see, don't you? I know you do. You too can be fly like me and the rest of the Man Listen crew. Grab this merch, check out our link in our bio. Drip.
But I mean, you nailed it with the music, and I think social media plays a part, but also these reality TV shows. I always say whenever we have more of something than somebody else, there's a problem. And there's so many love and hip hops and all these different like crazy shows where it shows like all this destructive stuff that's getting glorified in our community. It's not getting glorified in theirs. Now I know there's a couple of like Real Housewives for them and stuff like that, but not to the extent it is for us. And then, and all the love and hip hops and things like that. And as far as that girl at the BET Awards, it's just like back in the day, like you didn't even wear like, too short of a shorts, around older men, let alone be twerking next to a pastor. And y'all know all three of us, I'm the least religious person on the group right now. But come on now, the pastor, and you sitting there twerking next to him. I mean, just have some respect for yourself. Even if he wasn't a pastor, he's an elder. He's an older gentleman. And the fact that everybody was just okay with that and people are making excuses for it, I'm just like, no one sees the error in her dancing like that in front of all those grown men. But I don't know. The BET Awards is trash, though. I can't even remember. It's like worse than the Source Awards these days. There was some other like, I hate to use the word ghetto, but there was some other like black show that came on a couple times. I think it was based out of New York Live. You probably know the name of it. I can't even think of the name of it, but that's what it was putting me in the mindset of. Not to mention it was just cluttered. Kid Capri didn't do a good job in my opinion, but
yeah,
I just say cancel
them. Well, we've talked about it before. And we talked about the influence of music, and what's allowed for us and what other communities will not tolerate. And you nailed it, see, when you talk about the love and hip hop, the Real Housewives, they used to, the Real Housewives, yeah, they brought out the cattiness and the pettiness of Black women towards one another. It wasn't positive, but they did, they were moguls, they were bosses in their individual lanes, right? But then when you started introducing the love and hip hops, when it was in the basketball wise, when it was just, unfortunately, Black women who, were just glorifying or perpetuating negative stereotypes of Black women, and the money was good for them, and it became worse and worse and worse. And now we have the Zeus Network, which is really trash. And I was looking to see, well, who created the Zeus Network? And it was like 2 Black comedians, a white girl, and this other guy, this other Black man. And if y'all know anything about the Zeus Network it is ultimate trash. So the Krishan and Blueface dude,
Yeah,
they come from the Zeus Network.
okay.
Basically, you remember back in the day where they had like the Bad Girls Club, where basically they put a bunch of young chicks on TV that just fought each other every day. That's what the Zeus Network is. So they call themselves the baddies, and they put them on tour buses, they put them in houses, and all they do is fight and call each other names, pull each other's hair. Then they got something, I can't remember what they call it, but they got another show where there's a bunch of gay Black men. And they're acting the same way. They're acting just like the women are, fighting each other on the tour bus, fighting in the club, fighting. And it's just, I think that we've had a generation, whereas, and I hate to sound like an old fogey, where we came up on Different World and the Cosby Show and other things where we saw, we had the music like the NWA, but we also had some balance. And I don't think the young people that we have now have any sort of balance. So you're not seeing too many positive images on TV. I don't watch a lot of TV, so I guess you do got like what they call it, the Blackish and the Grownish or whatever. But the predominant images we see on social media and on TV is the reality. It's the reality TV. And then the music reinforces it.
Yeah. And the crazy part about it is, you just said it's the reality. So people think this is how these people really live, not knowing that the reality shows are scripted. They're partially scripted. Well, I'm not gonna say the situations are all thrust on them. Mm-hmm. They know, you know what I mean? And so it's sad. It's sad, man. It's you said something, see, about the hip hop, love and hip hop, you too, Marv. It's like, man, you know what? They don't have love in country. They don't have love in rock and roll. You know what I mean? They don't have love in pop. It's just hip hop. And we all know hip hop is probably it's the mainstream. It's America's biggest export as far as music goes, because it goes all over the world. And so it's a very popular genre. But at the same token, you can't tell me that in the success of 20 different cities of love and hip hop that nobody had an idea to come up with love and country and be in Nashville or something, and it's purposeful, it's intentful the way they're doing it.
Everything is by design, man.
Yeah.
Everything that is negative, that is marketed towards us, is by design.
Yeah.
Neighborhoods that we live in.
Yeah.
The food that is given to us. Everything, the education that is presented to a lot of our children, everything is by design. And the thing about white supremacy is that it's nefarious, and it knows how to totally encompass the mind of somebody who's not enlightened like we are. And the question I have for y'all, though, is this. We talk about respectability politics. Are we getting into respectability politics by calling this type of stuff out?
Mm-mm.
I don't, there's two different ways to look at it for me. So respectability politics, I think within our own community, there has to be a base level of respect that we have for each other. And that's if you want to call that respectability politics, yes, we're getting into that there should be a baseline respectability. But do I think that the way that these people are acting is going to cause white people or those in power to say, look at that, see, that's why we act? It doesn't matter how we act to them. It really doesn't matter. I think it's just, we just have to hold ourselves to a certain level of respect.
There's a standard that we need to have.
Yeah.
But I think that it's dangerous, and I always said this, and I said it about what's that show with Kerry Washington, Scandal.
Yep.
It's dangerous to have like the Krishans and the other, you name, I hate to just single her out, but she's kind of like the face of it right now. But have all these Black women fighting each other, calling each other names. Then you're starting to see the Black men do it, and you see, used to be we sold the drugs, now we're the drug addicts, right?
Yeah.
So you have all of these things that dehumanize us. So that when it's time for them to brutalize us or harm us, they feel like they justified.
But they felt like they was justified when Martin Luther King, when them was preaching and walking in suits down the middle of the street, they was justified.
That's a great point. But what I'm saying though is it's even worse now.
Yeah, and so I think
you made a good point there. That's the respectability politics, right? Yeah. So that's how we used to say, and I'm glad you called me out on that, Lav. I admit when you called me out on it. You remember when they first opened up the KCP&L, right? The Power and Light District. They said no sagging pants, no this. And basically, they were just targeting Black people, right? We don't want the Black people down there. And there was a lot of Black people, our age, our income bracket was like, yeah, like we don't want to see that either. And we don't want to see it. But most of us were still smart enough to realize, though, if you're going to discriminate against them, you're going to discriminate against us too, right? But there still has to be some sort of balance.
Yeah, there is.
A place where it's like, no, we don't want to see that either, but we still don't feel like it should keep you from being able to have a good time or to be able to access the things that everybody else has the ability to access. Go ahead, C. I'm sorry.
No, so I was going to say my opinion has changed a lot on as far as the respectability politics. About the power and light thing, though, I think so. We do know, just because we're off from that area, that there was some situations to where we felt like Black people were being discriminated against, and they kind of singled us out. But I hate whenever there's something that like says that you have to pull your pants up and wear a belt. You can't wear a bonnet. You can't wear pajamas to the dentist office, and everybody's just saying that that's anti-Black. That's not anti-Black. That's not how we started. So we used to always like dress to the nines wherever we were going, whether it was to a doctor's appointment, to a grocery store.
I remember when we used to dress up to get on the airplane.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
We used to get dressed up to take a flight.
Yeah, because somebody tells you can't like show your underwear and walk into a club. Like, stop just assuming that means, okay, they're anti-Black. Like, you're not supposed to look like that. But what I was saying, as far as my opinion has changed over the years, because I remember like growing up, like, the beginning of the Bones song, you know what I mean? Where they were like, we're not against rap, we're against those thugs. And I was kind of thinking, like, I wonder if this is what my parents was thinking when I was, blasting NWA back in high school. But I think the difference is back then, and like you said, in the 90s, there was a balance. Like, I think there were NWA and colors and the gang culture in LA, it definitely did affect us and Black people, but I think it affected a small percentage of us. The rest of us knew it was just entertainment because of either our families or our environments, and things were different. And so I think that's the difference, to where now the majority of what they're seeing is this destructiveness, and it's affecting the majority of our kids. And I'm not saying that every girl that's 20 something is acting like that girl Twerking and acting like Krishan and fighting and loving him, but it's not uncommon these days, to where back in the day we'd be like, oh man, this girl's tripping. Now it's just like, everybody's like, and that's her song, that's how she dances, you know what I mean? And so I think that's the difference. So that's why I feel like it may be. And even when it comes to them treating us a certain way, now I am definitely not gonna sit here and say like the majority of them weren't thinking that way when Martin Luther King was marching and we had on suits and dresses and heels and things like that. But I feel like the way people are acting now, it's making more than just that small percentage think that it's not so much justified, but just thinking that that's the way we are. But I feel like the majority of the world feels like almost that's the way we are now because of these TV shows and because of rap music and stuff like that.
You know, and I don't feel like we're wrong to feel that way because, one of my favorite movies, a lot of people say it's like, two of the best movies ever made, The Godfather, when they talk about the mafia and the Sopranos and different like Goodfellas, things that will talk about the mafia. You talk to Italians, they're like, we don't want to glorify that. That's not something that we want to be glorified. The underbelly, the underworld of our culture. We want to talk about Rome and Caesar and the glory of our heritage. So we're not wrong to want to disassociate ourselves with that. I don't 100%. I don't attribute that to blackness, like you said. See, so when they talked about the young ladies twerking at the slave castle, I'd be like, they ain't my people, because my people got sense. They know how to act. They know how to act.
Yeah.
You don't see white folks claiming trailer trash folks that's in their family. They be like, hey, ain't you related to Jim Bob that live in it? It's like, Jim Bob who?
Right.
Like, what you talking about? You know what I mean? They don't associate that with blackness. They don't associate themselves with, the segment of their family or their community that doesn't have class or that doesn't, have a standard of how you're going to conduct yourself in public. And we shouldn't either. And I don't think we should feel bad about that. Now, I don't feel as if any harm should be done to those people. Because like I said, they'll hurt me just like they will hurt them. We got college age, we got kids who are in college. They'll treat them just like they'll treat the kid that's on what's Lil Durk and what King Von them say on 54th and 55th in Chicago. They'll treat them the exact same way. They're treated the exact same way. So that's the battle that we got to have. But internally, we got to create a standard, man.
Yeah.
And that's shameful. That's all those things are shameful. It's shameful to be twerking in front of a elderly black man like that who could be your grandfather. It's shameful. It's shameful to be twerking at the slave castle. And it's shameful for a young black man to be hitting on a black woman like that. It's all shameful, man. So we got to get a standard. We talked about the gang culture. I remember we always had gangs. Everybody had gangs. Mexicans, Italians, blacks, they had gangs. I remember coming up in Topeka, Kansas. The gang members where I grew up, they wouldn't even allow me to be around if some foolishness was going down. They wouldn't even allow me to be around. They'd be like, hey, yo, schoolboy, you got to go. Vacate the premises. There were dudes that was my age. And they was like, nah, I mean, why he get to stay? Right? Yeah, he ain't you. You got to go. Nowadays, that don't even happen, man. What's the girl, the track star that got caught for smoking weed? What's her name? Sha'Carri Richardson. Yeah. Man, let me tell you, back when we was coming up, and I hate that I sound like the old man, but I am the old man.
Yeah, you are.
There wouldn't have been nobody in the neighborhood that would have sold her no dope. She's been trying to find some dope, and they'd have been like, no, you're not, we're going to sell it to you. We're going to take you back to your mama, your grandmama, and be like, hey, yo, y'all need to get her, because she out here.
She's a celeb. She probably wasn't in her neighborhood buying, but yeah, I got you.
Listen, man, you get the point I'm trying to make, though.
I got you, man. Yeah.
So I don't know. Well, Mama is now suing the Chicago people.
Hey, it all comes back to what I said earlier, man. It's all about the money.
Do you think she's doing too much?
So my thing, I don't know if she's doing too much. I think she's doing it too soon. So you and I both talked about this, Marv. When they charged her with first degree murder, I was like, oh, it's a wrap. She's getting off. She's gonna beat that. They can charge her with a lot of things, but not first degree murder. And so I almost think that they dropped those charges so that they can sit and kind of plan how it's going. I wish Arika was here. She would definitely know more than I would about the situation. But I feel like they're looking to bring up. They might not now because of all the publicity about it, but I feel like they dropped the first-degree murder so they can later charge her with manslaughter or second-degree murder or something like that. And so I feel like she's just moving too fast. Just like wait and make sure everything is settled, and then go ahead file your lawsuit. I mean,
my only thing to that, and I feel you. I think if she would have, and I wish that Rika was on the show. I feel like if she had any type of attorney that was worth anything, they would have some sort of relationship with the prosecutor, and they would say, "Are y'all going to pursue any charges at all?" And they would probably say no, right? Like, no, we're not going to. But we know they could change their mind, right? Look, Bill Cosby, not sticking up for Bill Cosby, but Bill Cosby said, "Hey, yo, I'll give a testimony as long as it remains sealed." And they changed their mind. They use that to throw them in jail, right? So anything can happen.
Everybody can read it.
Anything can happen when you Black, right? Anything you can happen when you Black. And you're right, see, because they didn't pull it up until Bill started feeling himself and talking about how they can't pronounce the names and all this old mess, right? It's okay, we're gonna bring this out. But my only response to that though is the white folks do it. White folks will sue the police in a minute. So now when I do it, probably not. I probably would have put up a GoFundMe, got some paper, and disappeared. But if she's thinking she's gonna just walk around these Chicago streets and it'd be cool, because first of all, your son definitely gonna need some therapy. You're gonna need some therapy, and y'all need a fresh start. Because the way that folks talking about he didn't deserve to die and you in the shy, y'all need to move. Y'all need to just go ahead and start over in Palm Springs, California, or somewhere, and just reboot your whole life. Now you think she's doing too much?
I do. I think it's all about timing. You know, this literally happened a few days ago, man. I mean, oh boy, ain't even
June 22nd. June 22nd, and it's the 27th at the time of this recording.
And he ain't even in the dirt yet. I mean, she just got out off the charge yesterday. They had to have a
GoFundMe for him. He out here doing all this and didn't even have life insurance.
Yeah. But I mean, she just got out of prison or out the jail, whatever, county, city jail, whatever she was in. Was that yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, man,
or today or this morning. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's doing, and that, again, that goes to no, I'm not gonna say. I was about to say that goes to her the emotional state of people. You know, you file something very hastily, man. You're just emotional. Just give it time to relax. You waiting 2 weeks ain't gonna make it go through the system any quicker.
Listen, I think I'm not mad at her. I'm not gonna say she's doing too much. It's sort of like the Will Smith thing, right? Yeah. When I wouldn't have got on that stage and smacked Chris Rock, but I understand why you. Yeah. That's the exact thing with this one right here. I probably wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
But I understand.
Yo, don't worry. We're going to get back to the good stuff. But before we do that, make sure you go to our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Man Listen Show. If you want to donate to the show, go to our Cash App, $ Man Listen Show. Now back to the good stuff.
For real.
Yeah. And you know, it's one of those deals where I'm not going to say work, but when you look at cities, and I think they've done a report on Chicago. Obviously, they have with all the lawsuits they've settled. Sometimes they're going to settle it just to get it out the news, right? And so she might not get 100 million or whatever, but you know, she gets a little something. And it's like you said, the tactic that the other people use a lot. Just say, I might not get 1 million, but I take this little 50,000. I take this 75,000 or whatever, and that's enough to change a lot of people's lives if they play it correctly. You know, it can get you. You know.
Here's the thing, though, man. She really don't have to do this though. if she would have started a GoFundMe, they probably would have got 4 or 5 mil at least. Just our donations, because a lot of people.
Because of the kid.
I'm gonna tell y'all something. I'm not mad at that young man.
No, every dude.
And I see somebody striking my mother, I'd empty the clip on.
Yeah.
And allegedly, the mama told her, well, hey, shoot her too, because she was laughing. Y'all better be happy that when my mom was alive, she was a good person. Because if my mama said, take everybody in this story out, I'd have did it. Most black dudes stand for their mama, and I'm most black dudes. I'd have laid everybody out. So I'm not mad at that young man. And most people feel the same way, and they'd have been like, oh, hell yeah, I'll send money. I just saw on social media, Nicki Minaj said she gonna pay for the young man's college.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So to your point, see, she kind of, I mean, don't get greedy. Don't get greedy.
Or get greedy later. Just wait a minute.
Listen, man, they turned that into a movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? They turned that into a movie and all kind of stuff, man. And I don't think it's funny that this dude lost his life, but I ain't sad about it either.
No, it is what it is.
Man, hey, but the internet, man.
All those memes and stuff.
I ain't saying, so let me guess, they was probably saying she Monet and he Kane or something, huh?
No, the only one I saw, I laughed, but I couldn't. They said he went in there for a burger and left with wings.
I did.
And then I guess during the argument, so I didn't even really play the video.
That's a good one.
Nah, I don't want to laugh.
I'm not laughing at that, man. Yeah.
Oh, I am. I'm a firm believer. God has a sense of humor. You can laugh. But so on one of them, it said, I guess he was like arguing with her. He kept saying, "On my grandmama, if you say something else, I'm gonna knock you out."
They had him like this about, I'm about to join your grandma. Yeah. Yeah. Those are the two I saw. You know.
Okay.
And like I said, condolences to his family.
His cousin made a post saying they're trying to paint you in a different light, and boy, they lit her up. She deleted it now, but
now he painted himself in that light.
Yeah.
He painted himself.
And you know that's the thing, man. Is I mean, every time something like this happens, you know, who knows what was going on in that man's personal life or at that moment, man. But that's a part of, like we always talk about, you gotta be, you never know in that one moment what he could have been going through. In one moment can change your entire life and the way everybody views you, man. And so we got to get our mental health in order, man. We got to get our emotional, we got to get less emotional, get some emotional stability, all that stuff, man.
Well, I mean,
there's a lot more I can say about that, but that it's gonna get into the gossipy thing. We'll talk about it after the show. But anyway, I think we talked about it enough. Make sure y'all follow the show on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at manlistenshow. Subscribe to the show on YouTube. Leave a comment. Let us know what you think. Was the mother in the right or was she in the wrong? Is she doing too much by pursuing a lawsuit against the police department? Let us know. And we'll have you next time. Go down Instagram, hit the bio, buy some merchandise. It's hot. I'm in Texas and it's over 100 degrees, so you ain't got to get a hoodie. Get you a couple t-shirts or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Get you a couple t-shirts and let everybody know about the Blackest Radio Show on the internet, the Man Listen Show. We'll have you next time. Peace. Shout out to Arika.